My name doesn't matter as much as the story I'm about to tell. Because somewhere out there, another woman is living the same silence I once lived. The kind where your heart still beats for someone who's already moved on. I was the woman who loved a man that worshiped power more than people. The kind of man who could charm a crowd, win a room, and still lose his soul without realizing it. To the world, he was brilliant. To me, he was home. Until he decided success was the only thing worth loving. I gave him everything: my faith, my time, my heart. And in return, he gave me lessons I never asked for. I used to think love could fix a person, that patience could save them. But some people don't want saving. Some people want control. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come with shouting or tears, it comes with silence. It's when you realize the person you believed in isn't coming back, and the only thing you can do is build something beautiful out of the wreckage they left behind. If you've ever been forgotten by someone you would have died for, this story is for you. Because sometimes the pain that breaks you open is the same pain that births your strength. So stay till the end. Because what he lost turned into everything I gained. And what he ignored became the very thing that saved him. When I first met him, he wasn't a billionaire. He was just a man with big dreams and a dangerous kind of confidence, the kind that makes you believe he can bend the world if he tries hard enough. I met him on a day that didn't seem special at all. He was wearing a shirt with sleeves rolled up, talking to a group of people about something that didn't concern me. But there was something in his voice, sharp, steady, like every word he said had already been tested in fire. He noticed me watching him, and for a moment, he smiled like he knew I'd play a part in his story. I didn't know then that I'd be the chapter he'd try to forget. In the beginning, he was kind. Not the loud kind of kind, but the quiet one. The kind that remembered my coffee order. The kind that listened when I talked about my childhood dreams. He said he admired my strength. He said I made him feel grounded, like the world stopped spinning so fast when I was near. I believed him. We used to sit on park benches, sharing cheap meals and big dreams. He talked about building an empire that would change everything. I laughed and told him I didn't care about empires. I just wanted peace, love, and a home that didn't echo with loneliness. He said I'd have that one day. I didn't realize he meant without him. When his company started to grow, so did the distance between us. Meetings ran late, dinners went cold. He started using words like strategy and timing when I asked simple questions like, "When will you be home?" He became someone I had to schedule time with, someone whose heart had a calendar. I tried to be patient. I told myself love required understanding, that maybe this was what ambition looked like up close: messy, consuming, demanding. But slowly, I began to see that power was his true love, and I was just the quiet audience cheering from the back row. Then came the moment everything changed. The day I found out I was pregnant. I remember holding that test in my hand, my heart racing with fear and joy all at once. I thought it was a sign. Maybe this would remind him what really mattered. Maybe this would bring him back to me. When I told him, his face went blank. No smile, no words, just silence that felt heavier than any scream. Then he said the words, "I'll never forget. This isn't the right time. I can't afford distractions." Distractions. That's what we had become. Me, the woman who believed in him when no one else did, and the child growing inside me, just another threat to his empire. I didn't beg him to stay. I wanted to, but pride has a strange way of holding you upright when your world collapses. He walked away without a backward glance, leaving behind promises, memories, and the faint scent of his cologne that haunted my nights for months. That night, I cried until my body went numb. But even through the pain, I whispered to my unborn child, "You are not a mistake. You are my beginning, not my burden." He chose power over family, but life has a way of balancing what's broken. I didn't know it then, but the same man who turned his back on me would one day kneel before the very thing he abandoned: our child. The day he left, I stopped waiting for footsteps that would never return. There's something about heartbreak that forces you to grow faster than you want to. You stop dreaming about rescue and start learning how to survive. I moved into a smaller apartment, one with peeling paint and a single window that faced the street. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I worked mornings at a clinic and nights at a diner, counting tips that barely kept the lights on. But every time exhaustion tried to swallow me whole, I'd rest my hand on my stomach and remember. There was a life inside me depending on my strength. Pregnancy wasn't easy. There were nights I'd lie awake, feeling the baby kick, whispering, "It's just you and me, little one." We're gonna be fine, I meant it, even when I didn't believe it. When the day came, the delivery room was quiet. No father waiting outside, no flowers, no family photos. Just me and the sound of my baby's first cry. A sound that split through my pain and filled the room with something sacred. I held that tiny body against mine and made a silent promise. I will never let you feel unwanted. Raising a child alone teaches you things no book can. It teaches you how to stretch a dollar, how to smile through fear, how to laugh even when your heart is tired. My child grew fast, curious about everything, asking questions I sometimes didn't know how to answer. But one thing was always clear: they were loved more than life itself. Meanwhile, his face began to appear everywhere: magazines, interviews, red carpets. The man who once shared cheap dinners was now shaking hands with presidents. Every time I saw his name, I felt a sting, not of jealousy, but of disbelief. How could someone rise so high after walking away from something so pure? But I refused to let bitterness build a home inside me. Instead, I focused on building ours. I worked harder, saved what little I could, and poured every ounce of love into my child's world. We didn't have wealth, but we had peace. We didn't have luxury, but we had laughter. And though I never spoke his name, there were pieces of him I couldn't deny. The way my child looked at the stars with the same fire in their eyes, the way they never gave up on anything. It was him, his spark, his brilliance, but softened by love. I thought I had closed that chapter for good. I believed our paths would never cross again. But fate has a way of rewriting the stories we think are finished. And mine was about to take a turn I never saw coming. Years passed like pages turning in a book I wasn't ready to reread. My child had grown, sharp-minded, kind-hearted, and far wiser than their years. They were everything I'd ever hoped they'd be and more. I saw in them the best parts of me. And whether I liked it or not, pieces of him too. The way they carried themselves, the spark in their ambition. It all reminded me of the man who once promised forever, but couldn't handle love that required sacrifice. One morning, while eating breakfast before school, my child showed me a flyer. It was a national innovation competition, one that invited young minds to create ideas for a better future. Their eyes gleamed with excitement as they explained the prize: a scholarship, mentorship, and a chance to present their idea to some of the world's biggest business leaders. I smiled, proud, but froze when I saw the sponsor's logo, his company, his name. For a moment, I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect my peace, keep that door locked. But I looked at my child's face and realized this wasn't about my past. It was about their future. So I swallowed the memories and said, "Go for it, baby. Show them who you are." Weeks passed in a blur of preparation. My child worked tirelessly, sketching designs, building models, testing ideas. I watched quietly, knowing something powerful was unfolding. They didn't need a father's name to shine. They had their own light. Then came the day of the competition. The auditorium was massive, filled with cameras, reporters, and people dressed in power. I sat in the crowd, hidden in the back, my heart pounding against my ribs. When my child's name was called, they walked to the stage with calm grace, the kind that makes time stop. Their voice carried through the room, steady, passionate, full of conviction. As they spoke, I noticed movement in the front row. He was there, the billionaire, the man who once said family was a distraction. He leaned forward, intrigued, his eyes locked on the stage. When my child finished, the room erupted in applause. And then, in that charged silence between clapping hands and beating hearts, I saw it, the recognition. His eyes widened. I saw confusion, disbelief, then something raw, something breaking. The resemblance was undeniable. After the ceremony, he approached us. For a second, I thought I might faint. Time slowed as his gaze moved between me and the child standing proudly beside me. His lips parted, but no words came out. All those years of power and control, and yet, in that moment, he looked small, like a man stripped down to his truth. He didn't say much that day, just one trembling sentence. I think I've made the biggest mistake of my life. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace, because fate had finally brought him face to face with everything he tried to forget. After that day, he started showing up in our lives, not as the billionaire the world worshipped, but as a man who was slowly realizing what he had lost. At first, I wanted to shut the door. My heart knew the danger of letting someone back in who once abandoned us. Trust isn't rebuilt with apologies or money. It takes time, patience, and the willingness to face your own mistakes. He tried to speak to my child awkwardly at first, stumbling over words like he had forgotten how to be human. But children have a way of seeing truth that adults often miss. My child didn't care about his status or fame. They cared about presence, honesty, and love, the things he had denied for so long. And slowly, something began to shift. I had countless late night conversations with him. I wanted answers, not excuses. I wanted to know why he walked away, why he chose ambition over family. Sometimes he would talk, sometimes he would cry, and sometimes he would sit in silence, staring at what he had lost. I listened without anger, even when my soul wanted to scream, because I realized anger wouldn't heal anything. Only truth could, and the truth was undeniable. He had changed, not entirely, but enough to see the consequences of his choices. He saw how my child had grown brilliant, confident, and full of love despite his absence. He saw the strength he had missed, the joy he had overlooked, and the life he had abandoned. Every achievement of my child was a mirror showing him what he had failed to protect. There were moments I doubted myself. Should I forgive him? Should I let him back into our world? But forgiveness isn't about excusing the past. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of it. And I needed to protect my child while allowing room for the man who had once been their father to find redemption. It wasn't easy. He stumbled. He faltered. He questioned everything he had ever believed about power, control, and success. And in witnessing my child's untainted perspective, he began to understand something vital. True strength isn't in money or influence, but in love, humility, and presence. Slowly, cautiously, I let him in. We set boundaries, shared our stories, and rebuilt small connections. My child taught him patience. My presence reminded him of accountability, and he began to transform, not overnight, but steadily, like a man learning how to live after a lifetime of chasing the wrong things. By the end of it, I realized that karma hadn't punished him. It had taught him. Life had forced him to see the cost of his choices. And while I couldn't undo the past, I could witness his growth and the genuine effort he made to repair what he had once shattered. In those quiet moments, watching him interact with my child, I finally understood. Some people have to lose everything to learn what really matters. And sometimes, the ones they ignored, the ones they thought would never matter, become the very reason they are saved. Time has a way of softening edges, of turning wounds into lessons and regrets into clarity. Slowly, the billionaire who once chose power over family began to change, not because the world demanded it, but because my child showed him what success truly meant. He started showing up, not to impress, not to reclaim, but to understand, to witness, to be present. At first, his presence felt foreign. I would catch him hesitating at the door, unsure of how much he could give or how much he deserved. My child, innocent yet perceptive, treated him like any other person, warm, curious, and unafraid. And that openness broke something inside him. All the boardrooms, all the money, all the accolades, they suddenly seemed hollow. Nothing mattered more than the small hands that trusted him anyway, the eyes that looked at him expecting love, not excuses. He began to ask questions about my child's school, hobbies, and dreams. He didn't want to control, he wanted to listen. Slowly, we started having real conversations. Conversations where the past was acknowledged but not used as a weapon, where mistakes were confessed without shame and forgiveness was offered without demand. And through it all, I watched him unravel the man he used to be, a man so consumed by ambition that he forgot how to love. He didn't become perfect. He never could, and I never expected him to. But he became present. He celebrated milestones, not just corporate victories. He learned that the laughter of a child could heal wounds money never touched. He understood that love is an investment with returns that no ledger can measure. And in seeing him grow, I realized how far we all had come. My child, once a tiny life I carried alone, became the bridge between two worlds, one of loss and one of redemption. They taught him patience, humility, and joy, the qualities he had long ignored but now held in reverence. And in that process, I healed too. I didn't need him to complete me. I only needed him to see the life we had built without him, the love we had nurtured in his absence. There were quiet evenings when he would sit, watching us, letting the silence speak for what words couldn't, and I would see in his eyes gratitude, regret, and hope all at once. He had learned the hardest lesson of all, that true power is not in domination or wealth, but in nurturing, caring, and choosing love over ambition. In the end, we didn't return to the way things were. We created something new, something stronger. We became a family defined not by past mistakes, but by the effort to grow, to forgive, and to love unconditionally. He never stopped being ambitious, but he learned the real meaning of legacy, the lives you touch, the hearts you hold, and the love you don't take for granted. And as I watched him smile at our child, truly smile without pretense, I knew this. He once walked away from us, but we became his greatest blessing. And sometimes, the ones you ignore have the power to save you in ways you never imagined. Looking back, I realize how much we all grow through what we endure. He once chose power over family, thinking ambition could replace love. I once feared his absence would break us completely. And yet, here we are, stronger, wiser, and whole in ways we never imagined. Life has a way of teaching lessons through the most unexpected paths. My child became more than a source of pride. They became a teacher. They showed him humility, patience, and the kind of unconditional love that no boardroom could ever provide. In learning to care for them, he learned how to care for himself. And in caring for us, he discovered a richness no wealth could measure. I also learned that love isn't about clinging to someone who leaves. It's about nurturing, protecting, and growing with those who matter, even if it means carrying the weight alone for a while. Strength isn't measured by what you can hold on to. It's measured by what you can build from what's been taken. We didn't erase the past, and we didn't pretend pain didn't exist. But we embraced what was left, the laughter, the lessons, the moments of connection. And through that, we found a new kind of joy. So if you've ever been overlooked, ignored, or abandoned, know this. Your worth is not defined by those who walk away. Sometimes the very life you protect, the love you nurture, becomes the blessing the world cannot ignore. He lost the chance to be the first to witness our growth, but through that loss, he gained something far greater, a perspective that money and power could never buy. And as for me, I gained everything by standing firm, loving fully, and believing that even in absence, life has a way of bringing justice and blessings in the most unexpected ways. Stay with this story in your heart, because sometimes the ones we overlook become the miracle that changes everything.